Welcome to Dear Rebels, where we get into the behind-the-scenes tea of building a community-powered, crowd-funded magazine at the center of fashion, politics, and self-expression. This week, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty with this quote I found on Pinterest. "This isn't a mess. It's creative freedom." I realized that I've been hard at work overthinking the shit out of everything, and it's high time I unclench. This whole project is of the rebels, by the rebels, and for the rebels. Emphasis on rebels. Sometimes progress isn't linear and self-expression is messy. We just have to give ourselves permission to let it be. So, this week's stats. Our next issue is out on May 1st, which is this Friday. We have 18 Patreon subscribers, 34 email subscribers, 975 social media followers. Our current goal is to have the magazine pay for itself. Rent, subscriptions, overhead costs, etc. And that cost is approximately $500 a month. Now, this week, we're actually going to start with some little victories because I'm very excited to tell you that we rented a second office space because mine is too small for two people, and my husband has agreed very part-time to come on as a copy editor for Fashion Rebel Nation. Yay! Clapping! For those of you who don't know, my husband got his master's degree in English because at one point he wanted to be a professor, but then decided teaching wasn't his gig, so he has a totally different day job. But he has decided that he will come back and use his degree to help us copy edit, which I'm very excited about. Also, our first pen has officially run out of ink. And yes, I do mean an ink pen. I got this office in October of 2025, and here we are in April of 2026, and the pens that I bought to start here, one has already run out of ink. So that means that we are doing our creative jobs up in here. This week, I actually want to start with something from Field of Dreams, which was a film that was put out in 1989. And right before I jump into that, I am just going to tell you that I am not heavily editing these videos or what is going on to the podcast right now. And I'd be lying if I'd say that didn't make me a little bit nervous. Look, I've been a high school English teacher. I'm really not afraid of most people on the internet because I spent my whole life getting made fun of. So I would say that, I don't know, I kind of have thick skin or something. But people make these beautiful edited YouTube videos, podcasts, Substacks, all of these things. And right now it's just me. And I love sharing all of these things with you. But this is very much secondary to the creation of the magazine. So thank you so much for bearing with me while this grows and I get the hang of all of this. So back to Field of Dreams, which is a film that came out in 1989 starring Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones. And if you know it, if you build it, he will come. That is the famous line from that movie. He hears ghosts. Kevin Costner's character hears ghosts in a cornfield in Iowa telling him, if you build it, he will come. And so he ends up building this baseball field in the middle of a cornfield, and then all of these famous ghosts of baseball players show up to start playing a baseball game. Now, what the hell does that have to do with Fashion Rebel Nation, the magazine? It has to do with the belief that you can start building something and the people will come to you. You will find the people that need to find you. It's like I said, I'm not doing this all polished. I didn't wait till I had all of the funding and all of the employees and all of the perfect equipment. I I am doing this now with what I have because it is so, so important. And I do believe that if I build it, y'all are going to show up. People are going to find this because it means something. It's not just about me. I say that every single time. It is not just about me, and I don't want this magazine to be me. I want it to be us and reflective of our community. So I actually did a little bit of web surfing. Now, I do have to ask, like, raise your hand, comment, those sorts of things. If you remember web crawler, this is well before we had the Google or the search engines that we have now. There was something called web crawler, and I was fondly remembering that back in the day, and also remembering the catalog Delia's, which sold clothing and shoes and jewelry and accessories, and it was a bit above my family's tax bracket, but I always looked forward to the catalog. And I went onto eBay and discovered that these Delia's catalogs, the ones from the original like 1998, are selling for upwards of $90 to $100 per catalog. And there's actually another one that's called Just Nikki, and that wasn't around for a real long time. Also a catalog that sold things, but apparently there was an issue that had Britney Spears on the front, and I am really, really wishing that I would have kept that because that's selling on eBay for like $350. Now, out of Just Nikki, my favorite thing that I was ever able to purchase with the money that I got from one of my first jobs is a pair of knee-high combat boots that zipped up the side and had like a 4 or 5 inch solid platform across the bottom, which again at 5'9", this put me well over 6 feet. So it was super fun stomping around in the world. But reminiscing about all of these things made me go to archive.org, which is awesome if you haven't been there. It doesn't have everything, but it has a lot of things. And I was actually able to find full issues of some of those old Delia's catalogs so that I could start rummaging through them. And boy, the nostalgia was so, so thick when I did that, that I actually went back to eBay on a mission. And I looked up some 17 magazines because, again, those were things that I read a lot when I was younger. I really looked forward to those magazines. And actually, I got a whole pile of 17 magazines that were older than myself, like the summer before my freshman year of high school, because I was at a garage sale and they were selling for like 10 cents a piece. And this would have been the summer of 1996, because I think my freshman year of high school was the 96-97 school year. And some of these were like prom 1993, and I remember an issue of 17 magazine that I just wore out, which was prom of 1993, because it had a whole bunch of stuff about bell bottoms and a bunch of hippie paraphernalia, and that was one of my favorite periods in fashion history, so I wore that out. Now on eBay, those were selling for more than I wanted to pay, but I did find an old issue of Spin magazine from 1998 that had Christina Ricci on the cover. And I cannot tell you how much I loved that woman when I was younger. I mean, I emulated her. I wanted to be just like her. Christina Ricci was my jam. I actually drew a picture of her as a senior art project, but I have no proof because, alas, those were the days when we did not have smartphones, and it has since perished. But I picked up this issue of Spin magazine. I also picked up some Riot Girl zines, the original ones from the actual era. And I do have to pause to say that I had a whole discussion with TikTok about the fact that it's called a zine, because hear me out, I only ever really saw it in print, Zine. We never really called them anything. We made them, we had them, but I didn't necessarily hear anyone say it. And The only recollection I really have of someone saying the word aloud was one of my high school English teachers, and they pronounced it Zine. Now, so far, most of the people on TikTok are agreeing, yes, it is Zine, and I know they're right. But somebody did say that in Ohio, they said Zine as well, and weirdly, Urban Dictionary has its pronunciation set to Zine. So, I digress, but I got a bunch of these zines that were from the original Riot Girl era, and I'm so excited to take a look at those. And I even picked up a t-shirt that said "Smash the Patriarchy," which was made by the person who was selling all of these old zines. And speaking of t-shirts, we now have some Fashion Rebel Nation merch, which is made by ethical creators. It is a little bit more expensive because they make sure that the people that they purchase from are people that are using ethical practices and that they're paying everyone, etc. But all of these things I got together, the Spin magazine, the zines, all of this research was because Fashion Rebel Nation and the style in which I'm making it is super influenced by all of that early 90s stuff, and especially that zine scene, because that just feels so raw and real, and it is a part of a pivotal juncture in my development. The things that we get most nostalgic about are generally the things in our coming of age period, which is why, for those of you who have read Fashion Rebel Nation, or those who might go pick it up now, we are using that very 90s aesthetic just because it feels good, and we can. Also, I went back and looked at some old high school yearbooks because I don't know why, but they were laying in my office and I was like, oh, holy crap. So I started looking at them and I was like, man, just not just the pictures of people, but like the listing of events and the things that were going on, and life was just so much different then, and we had so many dreams and hopes for the future. But interestingly enough, now this was not inside of my yearbooks, but I was reminded of this, that we had a senior newspaper, because originally our school had a newspaper that was published regularly, like a lot of high schools did. But eventually it became a paper that was only published periodically, and one of the ones that they did was the senior edition, which was for all the seniors. Now, my high school had about 1,200 people in it. There were about 250 or 300 people in my class, and they sent out all of these questionnaires asking people to talk about different things, like who is the person most likely to become a doctor or end up on America's Most Wanted, or all sorts of things. And I have never won an award in my damn life. Awards are just not something that I come by, and that is okay. But that year, I did get voted something. I did. I got voted the most strangely dressed girl in the senior class, which I wore as a badge of honor, and I still do, because I mean, look, I'm making Fashion Rebel Nation, so there's my street cred. I have been considered the little fashion weirdo since day one. And that is what this magazine is all about. It is about reclaiming pieces of ourselves, the parts of us that have often been tucked away or over commercialized. We live in this capitalist meat grinder where everything is something for sale, and what sells best is things that can be homogenized, that can be mass produced and sold for cheap. And creativity cannot be homogenized and mass produced for cheap. That's just not the way that it works. And so here we are all about celebrating who we are as people, as a queer community, as allies of that community, but also with the things we like to wear, the music that we like to listen to, slow fashion, an appreciation for creativity and things made with human hands and human brains that isn't just more capitalist churn, which we now have coming out like crazy with AI. Now, I'm not going to say that AI may not have some good uses, but right now we are seeing it devastate nature with the plants that they are building to power it. We are seeing people use it to mass crank things out, like I said, just for profit. And that does not feel good. That feels icky. So here at Fashion Rebel Nation, we are reclaiming these things by creating a magazine that speaks to elder millennials and anyone who can relate to that time or finds themselves in it and says, you know what, I love this. I love this aesthetic. I love the things it represents. I love slow fashion and creativity and the grunge of it. As soon as I get those Zines and that magazine in the mail, you can be sure that I'll be talking about them because I'm so excited. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for them. So this week I am going to be working diligently on finishing up the magazine so that it will come out to you on May 1st, which again is Friday, and you can pick it up on Gumroad. You can go to fashionrebelnation.com to sign up for our Patreon, because paid Patreon members get the magazine as part of their membership. You can also sign up for the Gumroad email list so that you can get notified when that comes out. So that is the end of this episode. Messy. I'm not really good at these transitions outward yet, so this crowdfunded, community-powered revolution exists because of people like you. Thank you. You can join our collaboration on Patreon. You can contribute your creative voice to the magazine, or you can see how you can participate at fashionrebelnation.com. And before you go, be sure to subscribe and leave a review or a comment. Your voice helps us build the revolution one rebel at a time.